Formula One, a constant up and down. Especially out on the track, when shifting gear. Flat-out straights, hairpin bends, easing back, pulling past. The gearbox is always hard at work.
Schalten in der Formel 1 geht ganz einfach. Man hat eine
Getting into gear in Formula 1 is very simple. You've got a clutch mounted on the steering wheel that you have to pull. Then using the right side of the rocker switch on the wheel, you click once and you're straight into first gear. Press the throttle and, as with a motorbike, let out the clutch with your left hand, for example, and away you go. After that, the clutch is never used again. You just have to flick the switch up on the right or down on the left to change gear. That's all. The rest is done by the electronics and pneumatics, the vehicle management system. Simple for the driver. For the technology, a complex challenge. And the Monaco Grand Prix is the supreme test. 3,600 gear changes that have to be as easy as possible for the drivers to perform. Precisely how each gearbox is constructed is a strictly guarded team secret, but they will tell us the basic principle.
There are generally two shafts, a primary and a secondary shaft, and a mechanism that moves gears into contact with one another, and they're literally forced into contact with one another, and the dog's engaged and you get drive.
Titanium casing, steel cogwheels, ceramic balls for the bearings. Each gearbox consists of over 400 separate parts. The gears are lined up one behind the other, so none can be missed, and they have to be specially adapted to each circuit.
Most important thing is to make sure that your ratio drops are correct. This is the rev drop between each gear. If you try and go for too large a rev drop, then you have higher impact loads on the gear change, on the gears during gear change. So you need to make sure that you monitor this. Also, the first gear is used a lot more in Monaco than anywhere else, so the stresses that the first gear has to take are also a lot higher.
Bumpy tracks and hard grounding. Despite such influences, shifting up and down must work as smoothly as possible. The gear change itself takes under 30 milliseconds. As it's made, the carbon fiber clutch and engine management system are controlled by the electronics.
We have a brief period where there is no gear engaged, and during that time we have to adjust the engine speed to allow the gearbox to shift into the next gear, and then we have to bring the engine power back up again as quickly as possible to get the maximum performance. So all the way through we're trying to control the clutch and the engine to minimise the time it takes to come out of one gear and go into the next gear. But everything has to be, all the speeds through the gearbox have to be very, very carefully controlled, because otherwise we can get high-speed impacts on the internal components of the gearbox, which will lead to damage very quickly.
125,000 euros, the estimated cost of one Formula One gearbox. A close check is kept on how well they stand up to the rigours of racing. They're completely stripped down after every race and checked for cracks. The FIA is currently toying with the idea that from 2008, one gearbox will have to last for 4 races.
That would be a real challenge in terms of lifetime of the gears, but I think the more difficult factor would be to choose one set of ratio gears within the box which was suitable for 4 tracks. It would just be impossible to optimize one setup that was good for Monaco and then expect to go to Monza the next race. The cars would be significantly slower.
However, for now, that remains science fiction. A driver's fingertip feel for the right moment to change and a reliable high-tech gearbox. They're key to winning any race. For Formula One is a constant up and down.